I spent so many years working with young men, especially young Black boys. Their brilliance are being overlooked. Their leadership is being misunderstood. Their voice is not being heard. So I realized that some students are just surviving school instead of thriving. So for Rise Prep, we want to create an educational environment where young men not just manage, but they are truly educated.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Founder, where we have honest conversations about education and equity, innovation, and what really matters in education. Today, I am joined by Richard Terrell, educator, author, school leader, and visionary behind Rise Prep Academy, centered on supporting and empowering Black boys through intentional learning, mentorship, and community. Richard is also the author of Letters to My Young Brothers, There is Hope, and writes the column Let Them Rise, a blueprint for educating Black boys for the Minnesota Spokesman Reporter. So Richard, thank you so much for being on the podcast and sharing your story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Felicia. I look forward to our conversation and digging deep into the work that I'm doing in education, as well as Rise Prep Academy.
Yeah, I'm so excited because I feel like people on the ground are so close to the problem. So we need to hear from more people like you doing the work and hearing your thoughts. So I want to start out with, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got into education.
Yes. So born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I grew up wanting to go to law school, actually. In high school, I participated in this youth internship program through sophomore year in high school through my senior year in college. So this internship placed me at a law firm. So I wanted to go to law school. I was super excited to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a business litigator. But then when I graduated with my undergrad from North Central University with a bachelor's in communication, I had to take a leap year. I'm like, I just need to go work. I am taking a break. And then that's when I actually got into education because I just needed a job. So I started working at a charter school in North Minneapolis. It was like 95% students of color. Cousin at the time was the executive director. So I was a one-on-one pair with this 8th grader. So I was 24 years old, working with a one-on-one, working with a student that was literally 14 years old. So I got in there and I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, I'm just going to be your friend. Like, let's just hang out. I'm going to go to class with you. I'm going to learn who you are. I'm going to learn about your family. I'm going to learn about your likes, your dislikes, and see how we can build this relationship. And that's when I fell in love with education. Because as I was digging deep into learning him, I start seeing myself. I started seeing myself because I was in middle school. I was, acting up. I didn't feel connected. I was showing out. I was getting suspended. So I'm like, let me teach him or be the person that I wish I had in middle school. So got in education, fell in love with education, and been in education for the last about 15 years. I went from being a one-on-one para to a dean of students to an intervention specialist to a culture specialist to a teacher on special assignment that focused on equity, and then an assistant principal. And now I'm serving as an assistant principal here in one of the largest districts on St. Paul Public Schools.
That's amazing. And I love that you started from the very bottom as a para and then you have worked your way all the way up. So what I'm hearing is your experience is invaluable. Like most people can't say that. I can't even say that. I didn't start out as a para. So I think that's beautiful. So one of the things I want to ask you is, what was a defining experience in those early years that shaped your passion for supporting Black boys?
Yep. So I went from a para to an intervention specialist. And while I was an intervention specialist, I started a boys group. It was called Real Leaders, Reaching Everyone's Achievable Limits. And I mentioned that in my book, Letters to My Young Brothers, There is Hope. And I created this program because I saw a sense of urgency around conversations with young Black men, right? About what does academic excellence mean? What does leadership mean? What does social awareness mean? Self-identity mean? So we met weekly to talk about these issues. We cooked together. We had speakers together. I taught them how to play chess and Monopoly. It was an opportunity for the Black boys to be together. That was a very defining moment. I'm like, I have to dig deep into this a little bit more. And this was about 2018, I believe, when I started Real Leaders. And I still talk to some of the young men to this day.
Yeah.
Actually, two of them graduated this year, right? So I'm still talking to them and spending time with them, letter of recommendations, a reference, because I knew them when they was in middle school to now young men in society and living, becoming young men in society and career.
That's amazing and something beautiful that you said in the beginning. And I'm sure you didn't realize it when you were 24 mentoring. Like, I wanted to get to know them. I wanted to form a relationship. And at least in my experience as an educator, that has made all the difference. My husband and I went to high school together, and we still talk about our algebra teacher
Mhm.
to this day. So I think that's beautiful. So, in your experience, especially through the mentorship and being an assistant principal now, what do you think is most often overlooked for Black boys in education?
What's overlooked is that they are creative, they are
Right.
unique, they are brilliant, and those are the main things that are overlooked in education as a whole. And I'm not just talking about a traditional public school. It could be private school, it could be charter school.
Mhm.
They are overlooked in so many different ways, even in leadership. So for the work that I do as an assistant principal, well, my goal is to make sure that they are seen, that they are heard, that they are pushed to their limits, and let them know, like, you can apply for this leadership opportunity. Like, you can, and I believe in you. And there's teachers that's out here that believe in you as well, but you have to take the first step.
And that's awesome because you do mention like the networking and going for taking risks and going out there, but we will get to that soon. But before we go there, what are some things parents may not immediately recognize when their child is struggling in school?
We'll say the first thing will be like parents wouldn't recognize if students are struggling in school.
Hmm.
They think that the grades are them growing, right? Them
Yeah.
succeeding in the classroom. And I think that's the main thing, right? They're not seeing the deep roots within the grades,
Mm.
right? For example, a student may have had a long period of time to get work done just to get that A. But a typical student will probably get, less 50% of time to get that work done. So I think they're overlooking the fact that students are not given opportunities, right?
Mm.
As well as they are not being able to reach their full potential, right? Because there's deadlines, right? And there's deadlines to get things done. However, there are moments where students will have a long period of time because of certain needs.
That that's a really good point. So what does it look like when a student feels truly seen?
What does it look like when a student feel seen?
Seen and supported, sorry.
Yes. Seen and supported. I would say the big thing is you know them, right? Like you understand where they're coming from. You understand their lived experience. You understand how to communicate with them. You understand how their parent dynamics are, right? You can have conversations outside of the hey, get this essay done. You can say, hey, how was your weekend? How was the basketball tournament, right? Oh, what did you cook last night? Oh man, you ate chicken last week, right? Or you went out of town. How was traveling, right? Like you understanding them as a individual, as innocent.
That's amazing. Like, and I like that you brought in like all the little things that are important to them. Cause I think as educators, and I'll admit it myself, like sometimes we forget about that through the paperwork and through all the things that we have to do. It's just like, oh yeah, these kids need to know that I care about them. Right. So I want to change gears a little bit to what's the inspired vision behind Rise Prep Academy and tell us more about that.
So Rise Prep Academy is an innovative educational program that provides a non-traditional pathway school for young men to strive and to achieve in academic excellence, leadership development, and enrichment opportunities, community engagement. It was born out of passion, but also frustration, right? Because here in the state of Minnesota, a lot of boys, particularly Black boys, are getting pushed in special education more than other students, right? They are getting suspended at a higher rate than other students, right? They are being referred with behavior referrals at a higher rate, as well as they're not succeeding on assessments, right? With reading and math. So for me, I spent so many years working with young men, especially young Black boys, And their brilliance, like I mentioned, their brilliance are being overlooked. Their leadership is being misunderstood. Their voice is not being heard. So I realized that some students are just surviving school
Ugh,
instead of thriving. So Fry's Prep, we want to create an educational environment where young men not just manage, but they are truly educated, right? So
yeah,
for us, we're going to create a model, or we are creating a model that focuses on community partnerships, social and emotional learning, impact mentorship, culturally responsive teaching. We're going to have licensed educators, and each student will have an individualized learning plan, not because they have special education needs, no, because it's important for us to set goals with them and their parents, right? So we're going to have goals at school, but the parents and the family or the students will have goals at home. And the most important thing with Rise Prep, we're not going to suspend students. We're a no suspension school,
right.
right? Our goal, we're going to restore. If there's harm that's done, we're going to restore. But most importantly, the goal is not to restore harm, is to keep the expectation high.
That's amazing. I love that you said restore versus like, oh, just we're going to kick kids out. Cause I think a lot of kids feel like there's nowhere for them to go where somebody is actually going to care about them and who they are. So you mentioned a community partnership. So I wanted to go a little deeper on that because I think that when it comes to traditional education, as parents, we feel like we drop off our kid, we're not allowed past the front door, we pick them up at the end of the day, and then that's it. It's like two entities operating separately. So with your community partnership, how do you how do you plan on bringing the community into the school and working together to educate young Black boys?
Great question. Great
Thank you.
question. So for us, let me start off and say I have nothing against public education.
Yeah.
I grew up in public education. I
Same.
currently serve in public education. Rise Prep is a non-traditional pathway, an alternative to traditional, right? So that's our focus. So there's two folds, right? Partnerships. So you have family partnerships and you have community partnerships. Family partnerships, we're going to meet with the parents at the beginning of the year and we're going to set goals together. And then each semester, the requirement is that parents will come in and have conversations with us to discuss where their child is during that time and see how they're doing at home, how we're doing in the school, so we can strengthen that partnership. It's not going to be, this is highly recommended. No, it's going to be required to participate or be a student at Rise Prep. Again, the high expectation, right? For
Okay.
both Rise Prep as well as the family and the student. That's going to strengthen the partnership, right? The second thing is community partnerships. We're going to do all the academic learning in Rise Prep. So we're going to have a teacher that's going to do math, that's going to do science, social studies, and English. However, we're going to call, instead of the traditional school, call it elective, we're calling it enrichment. So
Okay.
for us in the afternoon, we're going to partner with organizations that specializes in certain things.
Okay.
For example, we want to teach the kids how to golf. So we're going to partner with a golf course, right?
Amazing.
We're going to teach them how swim. So we're going to partner with a swimming organization. We're going to not have a typical gym. We're going to go to the YMCA or to the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to have a mini library in Rice Prep, but we're going to utilize the local library, right? Our goal is to bridge the opportunity gap and go into the community so the community can see that Black boys are brilliant, they are creative, they are positive, right? And in turn, the young men will feel confident in going into their community. Because let's be honest, there's some young men that live right across the street from a library that probably never been to the library. They don't even know what a library card is, right? And another thing, let me say, we're not going to have a typical transportation. We're going to use public transportation, right? Because we're going to teach them how to be
Advice.
independent life skills. We're going to teach them how to be independent. We're going to teach them about time management, responsibility. That's the whole body of the young man. And that's what we're doing at Rise Prep, a non-traditional educational experience.
And when you talked about like going out there and like the community being aware of these boys and the boys being aware of the community, like this awareness that you are working to foster, I think is so critical because sometimes we hear it as like a buzzword awareness, but it's like when you come from a very limited, poor background. I did as well. It's hard to know that there's anything else out there. And what you are working to foster will literally change their lives. And then you hit me with the we're going to ride the bus. And I was like, that's an important life skill to have because after you, it's like you're passing the baton to them of like, we got you out here. Now you can start to go and do things on your own as well as you get older. So I think that's beautiful.
And I also want to add that in addition to the family partnerships and the community partnership, the structure of Rise Prep is that we're going to start with 25 boys
Okay.
and we're going to have one teacher. And then that teacher is going to rotate with them from seventh to eighth grade. And also that strengthens what? Family partnerships, right? So that family would know I have to go to Mr. Terrell and I have Mr. Terrell or my son and I have Mr. Terrell for the next 3 years. So
Mhm.
that was partnership, and the goal is for that educator to know that family. So when that child get into ninth grade, they could bridge that gap. The educator can help bridge the gap with the families because that educator's been with that child for 3 years and the family for 3 years.
Yeah.
So now we're becoming that whole, right? We're becoming that network with them, with the village,
Mhm.
right? The village. We're an extended version of the village.
Yeah. So what grades do you hope to serve?
Yep. So sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. So we're gonna start with sixth grade, and then each year we're gonna add another grade.
Perfect. Good on you. Like I taught in elementary. I had the babies. Like middle school scares me.
I love middle school. It's so they come in quiet, a baby, but then they try to transition into man or womanhood. I'm like, no, slow down. Do
Yeah.
not rush. Do not rush.
I have a 12-year-old and we're in a bit of that transition right now. It's like I don't know what to do with this. So I think we need all sorts of educators because I
Yeah.
think we all have our specialty.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, so for a young man attending Rice Prep Academy, what is the ultimate success for story that you're looking for? Like, what would success look like for the boys graduating from your program?
Great question. What will success look like for those that are graduating from Rise Prep Academy? I would say the main thing is confidence in reading.
Oh,
Because we will be doing fall, winter, and spring reading assessments. Confident in math, but also knowing how to use math in the real world and how
mm,
to reading and not just read but comprehend it and use your voice with confidence. Another thing is mentorship. Every young man will end with a mentor in the community of their specialty. We're not waiting until high school graduation to decide what's going to be your area of interest. We're going to start talking about that now. And then my goal or our goal at Rise Prep is to partner you with someone in the community that specializes in that.
very cool.
And then another one, I would say a sense of awareness of who you are as an individual and having confidence in who you are as a young man living in this society.
That's awesome. So with that, you do want to go ahead. I'm sorry.
I would also say a plan, right? A plan to continue to grow from that individualized learning plan that we use for 3 years.
I will say that I didn't really start thinking about like where I was going to go until senior year, like when I was in school. So I like that it becomes a conversation in middle school and it gives you time to explore things and realize what you're even good at, you know?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So I did want to talk a little bit more about your book because a lot of the things that you said are in your book too. And while I am not a young boy, I I was able to take some lessons away from your book. And I think it's an important conversation to have. So this is his book. And the beauty of this, if you happen to have a young boy out there, is that it is written as letters to a young Black boy. You know what? I'm going to let you talk about it because I'm like so excited to talk about it because I really enjoyed the book. So I'm going to let you describe it and then I will pop in with what I really got out of it too.
I kind of appreciated the introduction that you were heading off to. So,
I was like, what am I
oh,
doing?
but yeah, so Letters to My Young Brothers, There's Hope was birthed out of the boys group that I started
Mm,
with real leaders. I realized that some of the young men had words, but they just didn't know how to voice it. So I actually started writing a letter to one of the young brothers. And that's how we communicate. We communicated through letters back and forth, like every single day. It started off with, "Hi, Mr. Terrell. Thank you for being here." And then I'll respond to him and we just kind of go back and forth. And I realized, like, man, as the day and the year was progressing, I'm like, oh my, like, he has so much to talk about. So I actually started writing notes and stuff several years back for, letters to my young brothers. There is hope. But this book focuses on dialoguing with young men in various areas, right? So it's like, why me, right? Instead of saying why me, why not me? I talk about education is important. I talk about dressing for success. I talk about traveling for fun, knowing your history. The leadership is in you. Football and basketball is more than just a sport, and it is composed in letters. So I start off with writing a letter to the young man, and then at the end of each letter is a challenge question. And again, I realize that young men they want to respond, and I give them opportunities to respond in this book based on the letter that they just read. And then the good thing is about this book is that I actually give them an opportunity to email me.
Yes.
Email me the responses to the email or the responses to the letters, I'm sorry. And we can have a real life conversation back and forth. So it's a great book. It's a great book for individuals, but also it's also wonderful if it's in a group setting, right? Because now you're able to have young men, sit down, read this book, respond, and then talk about it, right? And dialogue with one another.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to mention. Is like I love how accessible this book is to young boys, because not only is it a letter format, because some picture like a child that's not the best reader, you get a Harry Potter book and they're like, absolutely not. It's highly accessible. And there's a point where like you break things down in such a way that it makes sense to a child. So you were talking about what your undergraduate at one point, and then you even put in parentheses, a major is blah, 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 like what you specialize in. And I just thought that was so cool. It's like, this really is written for children and it's an easy way. And they can even respond to you. So, like, when I was reading it, one, I was like, maybe I should respond. But two, it's like if there's a boy that happens to stumble upon your book and they have no support system, you have then become their support system through
Yes.
this book. And I just love that. So, a couple of things I wanted to talk about that really stuck out to me, even as a grown adult woman, was taking advantage of every opportunity, networking, being a leader, dressing for success. But I really wanted to go into the dressing for success part because that one felt like tough love to me, which, like, there's a lot of love in this book and there's some tough love in here. So I wanted you to expound upon that, like the dressing for success part.
So that came out of because with my group again, with all leaders, some of the young men started off wearing baggy clothes and stuff. And, I checked them at the door, like, you're not gonna walk into this space. This is excellence. So you're gonna have to pull up your pants. If you don't have a belt, I'll give you a belt. But also not just because you're clothes, but you gotta also walk it, right? It has to feel good for you, right? So make sure
Mhm.
what you wear is stand for who you are. So for me, dressing success is a combination of what you wear, but also who you are as an individual and your thought and your heart.
Yeah, because you even said, like, you don't have to wear a suit and tie every day, but, you need to be presentable. And then another letter that I thought was really profound was the networking piece. I
Yeah.
feel like that was something I didn't learn until I was like in my 30s. So, can you expound upon that? Like, how young boys can use their network and how you used your network growing up to get to where they're trying to go and using their community to support them?
Yep. So that's the biggest thing, right? So for me, I make sure that or I focus on letting the young men know, like, networking is important, right? So
Mhm.
don't wait until you get a college degree or you get a certificate or you get a trade to start networking. Network right now. And I tell them, in the group and also now, I'm your first network now. Use me, right? Utilize me get you a job interview or put me on a reference or even get into a higher education opportunity, right? And then if you have any questions, if I don't specialize in that area, I know someone that may specialize in that area that I can connect you with. Because in real life or growing up, people say all the time, like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I didn't realize that until my 30s. I'm like, yes, 20s, early 30s, like, yeah, it is who you know. That's how you're gonna get that job. That's how you're gonna get into that college. That's how you're gonna, get these different opportunities or these resources. Is about who you know, not what you know.
And one thing I do want to mention is like you mentioned that this is a great book for a group setting. And I didn't think about that. And I hope people out there, if you have a group of young Black boys, like to utilize this book, like because I think it would be powerful in group settings. How do you think it's best used? Like one letter a week? How do you think they should use it?
It depends on how often the group is meeting. If it's meeting every day, then knock the 14 letters in 14 days. But if it's once a month, try to double it up, of course, throughout the year. But I would say, utilize it the best you can for your setting, but also make sure that you give enough time for the young men to actually reflect on those challenge questions, because those are the biggest things. Because I have been in settings in schools, and I'm also one of them that will read a chapter and put the book down and move to the next project or move to the next thing. I never had a chance, or I don't give myself chances to sit down and reflect on things that I read. Because the most important thing in this book is the reflection questions.
Yeah.
You can learn so much about your peer, right? Or even your student by just having them reflect. Take time to reflect on the challenge question, but also voice it out and have that dialogue.
Nice. So I know we talked about what young boys can take away from the book, but if an educator was to pick up this book, what can they take away from this book?
Great question, right? I think educators can take away how to understand young men a little bit more and
Mm.
what they're looking for, because it's coming from a perspective of a young man, right? Or a man, right? So I think that would be a good opportunity to learn more about the culture of young men.
So, what has your journey taught you about leadership and service? What's like the big aha through everything that you've done?
That leadership is not what you say, it's what you do.
Mm.
And that service comes from the heart.
Yeah.
And if you have the heart to serve, people will feel it and they will want to know more about you and your story. And in particular, me. They will want to know where a little bit more about me because of my heart's in the service. And I'll give a prime example. In my current position, I am a community person, so I lean into the community, the culture of organizations. So for me, I serve the student body, not through just an academic lens as a leader, but I serve to understand the culture as a whole and how can we bring the culture into the students.
Mm.
Because I realize that all students want to feel connected to a school community, not because of the academics is high or is excelling. No, why? Because they have Spirit Week. They have sports, right? They have fans. They have school representation day. They have these things that are making sure that they feel good about what building they go into.
Nice. I like that you mentioned that service is from the heart because I truly believe it is. And I've been able to feel your heart and passion through this Zoom call because it's like while I'm asking you the questions, you're excited, I'm getting excited. I was like, okay, whoo, like I can feel it. So I think that's important, especially for young kids. Like if you're not passionate, they're not going to be passionate. So what keeps you motivated and hopeful in this work?
What keeps me motivated and hopeful in this work is when I have two things. When I have a conversation, a real moment conversation with a young man, a young man or even a young, young lady, and they be like, "Yeah, Mr. Terrell, you're right. I should have looked at it this way. So next time I will." Right? That's giving me like, yes, it's happening. Change is happening in this moment. Right? The second thing is two of my students just graduated and I worked with them in sixth grade, right?
Oh
They
yeah.
just graduated from college and one is going into financial advising, right? And just having a conversation with him and he reflected on how he was in the sixth grade. I was like, yes, I can tell you how you was in the sixth grade. But now you walked across the stage, you got your degree, right? You're the first one in your family to graduate. Now you're looking at opportunities outside of Minnesota. Now it's like, yes, I may see it in a moment, but there's moments when I won't see it until years later. So that's why, I'm motivated and I'm passionate about this work.
So I want to start bringing our conversation to a close, but I'm just curious, like, what is one thing that you definitely want parents, other educators, young boys to know from this conversation?
One thing that I would say to educators, and particularly about young boys, especially
Mhm.
young Black boys, I will end with my title of my column, Let Them Rise. Yep. Let them rise.
That's amazing. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your heart with us, sharing Rise Prep Academy with us and your goals for that and your book, because it's such an important conversation. And I think that you are a phenomenal speaker because I got excited through this whole conversation. I feel like I could talk to you for 3 hours. So if parents out there, parents, other educators want to reach out to you, what is the best mode of reaching out to you?
Yeah, so the best mode, I am on social media. So I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, so Richard Terrell, or you can just email me at Mr. Richard Terrell at gmail.com. Again, it's Mr. So MR Richard Terrell, all one word at gmail.com.
Awesome. And I will definitely link that information in the show notes so they have access to you. But I hope you reach back out to us and we'll have you back on once Rise Prep Academy is up and running and changing lives. So thank you so much for the candid conversation.
Thank you, and I appreciate this conversation, and I'm super excited for Rise Prep and the work that's happening. So, Felicia, thank you for giving individuals like myself the platform to share their story and to continue to motivate and inspire and encourage educators, parents, and like-minded individuals that want to see success in education.
Of course. And please reach out if you have any additional questions, things that I forgot to ask or didn't ask. Please reach out, say hello, let him know how you were inspired by his conversation, and we will see you on the next Founder to Founder episode. Bye.
Thank you.